if you constantly feel behind, even though you're working hard and doing objectively fine. This video is about you, not because you're lazy, not because you're failing, but because comparison has already decided what winning looks like in your life. And once that happens, nothing you achieve ever feels like enough. You don't feel stuck. You feel late, and that feeling is dangerous because it makes smart people make desperate decisions. Welcome to The Quiet Clarity. My name is Daniel Parker, and I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not here to push you harder or tell you to hustle more. I'm here to show you why the game you think you're playing might already be rigged against you. Stay till the end, because once you see this, you won't be able to unsee it. Feeling behind is worse than failing. When you fail, at least you know where you stand. But feeling behind, that keeps you running. Think about this. You hit a milestone you work toward. A promotion, a raise, a stable routine. For a moment, there's relief. And then almost automatically, you check your phone. Someone your age announces something bigger. Someone else moves faster. Someone else looks further ahead. And suddenly, your win feels weak. Not because it is, but because comparison just reset the scoreboard. This is how people end up exhausted, without understanding why. They're not chasing success anymore. They're chasing relief from feeling behind. Here's the part nobody warns you about. Comparison doesn't just change how you feel. It changes the question you ask yourself. Before comparison, the question is this working for me? After comparison, the question becomes, how do I stack up? That shift sounds small. It isn't. Because the moment you start asking how you compare, you stop thinking independently. This is where effort stops feeling stable and starts feeling urgent. We've talked before on this channel about why doing everything right can still leave you burned out. Not because effort doesn't matter, but because effort inside the wrong frame slowly destroys your sense of direction. You don't need that context to stay here. But if this feels uncomfortably familiar, that earlier conversation exists for a reason. Comparison survives on borrowed scoreboards. Someone else's timeline, someone else's income, someone else's visibility. And borrowed scoreboards feel convincing because they look objective. titles, ages, milestones. But here's the truth. Those scoreboards were never designed for your life. Two people can start at the same time and end up in completely different places, both doing things right. But the moment one starts comparing, their own progress stops making sense. They don't ask, "Is this sustainable?" They ask, "Why don't I look like them?" That's when clarity collapses. Because comparison doesn't tell you what's right. It only tells you what's loud. Here's a historical analogy that explains this perfectly. Before modern maps, sailors navigated using stars. Not because stars were perfect, but because they were consistent. When printed maps became common, many explorers actually got lost more often. Why? Because maps were copied, outdated, drawn without local context. Comparison works the same way. It looks precise, authoritative, reliable. But it wasn't drawn for your terrain, your temperament, your constraints, your priorities. Trying to live by someone else's map is how people end up lost, while moving faster than ever. Here's something you may have noticed. Two people see the same success story. One spirals internally, questions everything, pushes harder that night. The other notices it and keeps going. Same world, same information, different outcome. The difference isn't discipline, it's permission. One person lets comparison define urgency. The other doesn't. That's why some people move forward quietly, while others burn out loudly. Comparison survives on one lie. Once you catch up, you'll feel okay. But you never do, because the finish line keeps moving. Even when you win, there's someone ahead. That's why comparison creates motion without satisfaction. You're not moving toward a goal. You're running from a feeling. And that's why so many capable people feel permanently behind. You don't fix this by trying harder. You fix it by changing what you measure. The next time comparison hits, don't fight it. Ask one question: is this actually relevant to the life I'm building? If the answer is no, you don't react. You don't adjust your pace. You return. That return, over and over again, is how clarity rebuilds. You don't feel behind because you're incapable. You feel behind because you're using someone else's scale. Comparison doesn't scream. It just quietly decides what matters, until your own direction disappears. You don't need to move faster. You don't need to catch up. You need to stop letting other people's outcomes decide what success means for you. That's what the quiet clarity is about. Not motivation, not hustle, not noise, just seeing things clearly enough to stop running in the wrong direction. If this way of thinking helps you, you can subscribe, not for motivation, but for clarity. I'll be here when you're ready to keep going.